The dawn bore witness to Arthur Devlin, a battle-scarred veteran in the field of journalism, within the confines of his study. His fingers brushed gently over weathered newspaper clippings and faded notebooks strewn across his desk, each a testament to a turbulent past and a mind's relentless war with itself. The story of his struggle with schizophrenia was etched in every trembling line of his face, in every weary crease of his aging hands. But within him, a light flickered. Love for his daughter, Sophia, the one constant in a world that often twisted itself into unrecognizable shapes. "Arthur," came the soft voice of his daughter from the doorway, her hands wringing a worn-out apron nervously. "Breakfast is ready, Father." His hardened face softened at her sight. Sophia, with her mother's auburn curls and lively eyes, was the beacon that kept him afloat amidst his internal tempest. A memory of her as a child, innocent and laughing in the autumn leaves of their backyard, brought a melancholic smile to his face. "Coming, sweetheart," he replied, rising with an effort from his worn-out chair. "Just sorting through some old ghosts." Breakfast was a silent affair, filled with fleeting smiles and stolen glances. He felt the distance his affliction had wedged between them, a chasm he constantly tried to bridge with his unspoken love. He spent the day following the mundane trail of everyday news in Troy, a city he had grown to call home. The stillness of the town, its somnolent tranquility, was something he had come to cherish. But that day, a rustle in the air, an undercurrent of discord, gave him pause. Stumbling upon a petty crime scene at Elysium, the city's popular nightclub, he felt the inklings of a story tug at his senses. He watched as bewildered patrons relayed their accounts to the local police, their eyes glazed and voices tremulous. Items of no remarkable value had been stolen, yet the victims seemed less distressed by the theft than the unexplainable compulsion to part with their possessions. "Arthur Devlin," he introduced himself to the officer in charge, a young man named Mitchell, extending a hand that mirrored the steadfast resolve in his eyes. Officer Mitchell's gaze flickered with recognition. "The journalist, huh? Never thought I'd see you poking around a lowly theft case," he jested. But Arthur saw the young officer's gaze darken momentarily, his joviality faltering at the sight of the unsettled patrons. He questioned Mitchell, gauged the unsettled witnesses, and examined the fringes of the crime scene, each disjointed piece pulling him deeper into the labyrinth of intrigue. His day ended with a return to his solitary study, a room echoing with whispered memories and old journalistic instincts reignited. Lulled by the rhythmic scratching of his pen against paper, he drafted the beginnings of what was to become his most daunting pursuit. As the evening light waned into a deep crimson, he found himself at the precipice of a mystery that beckoned him to leap into an abyss of unknown depth. His story, a labyrinthine chase, had just begun. And Elysium, the city's pulsating heartbeat, held the key to its unseen passages. Arthur found himself drawn back to Elysium as dusk gave way to night. The club, once a haven for Troy's youth, had transformed into a den of suspicion, its pulsating neon lights casting a grim kaleidoscope on the streets. His eyes studied the venue, the shadows playing a strange dance against the structure's concrete skeleton, each flickering luminescence a cryptic narrative waiting to be unearthed. Even the once vibrant music now felt like an eerie siren call, reverberating through the city's night. Upon entering, he was immediately struck by the patrons' unfamiliar demeanor. These were people he had seen growing up, their faces etched into the fabric of Troy. Yet under the club's neon glow, they were almost unrecognizable, their eyes vacant, their laughter hollow. He approached a familiar face, Nancy Miller, once a vivacious spirit, now a puppet of strange melancholy. "Nancy," Arthur called, his voice barely a whisper above the thumping bass. "You all right?" She turned to him, her eyes glazed and distant. "Oh, Arthur," she greeted, her words syncopating with the entrancing rhythm. "I've never been better." But her trembling hands betrayed her. The smile did not reach her eyes and her words hung in the air, a disturbing harmony in the discordant symphony. It was within these labyrinthine corridors that he discovered the first clue, a symbol, crudely etched into the underside of a table, an echo of a nightmare that often visited him. The haunting familiarity of the symbol gave him pause. its resemblance to the patterns his schizophrenic mind often conjured uncanny. He confronted Officer Mitchell again, their conversation taking place under the harsh, flickering neon lights. "Do you know anything about this symbol?" he asked, sketching the pattern on a scrap of paper. Mitchell eyed the sketch warily, a shudder passing his frame. "I've seen it around, etched on walls, bar tables, but it's just kids fooling around, right?" But the uncertainty in his voice was as palpable as the eerie silence that had fallen over the club's raucous crowd. As he left Elysium that night, Arthur felt a sense of unease clinging to him, a spectral mist that refused to disperse. The cryptic symbol, the patron's odd behavior, and the inexplicable thefts all painted an incomplete picture, a puzzle that held a sinister secret at its heart. Back in his study, he watched as the city of Troy slumbered under the silver moonlight, oblivious to the undercurrents of discord swirling beneath its calm veneer. Arthur Devlin, the seasoned journalist, had inadvertently become the city's sentinel, drawn into an investigation that whispered of an ancient darkness rising. His path was now set, leading him to the precipice of the forgotten and the echoes that lurked within. Days turned into nights, and the once familiar tranquility of Troy became a haunting echo of forgotten normality. Arthur's journey into the heart of Elysium continued, each visit revealing another layer of the unfolding enigma. His interactions with the townsfolk became a melancholy waltz between reality and the surreal, their once familiar faces now the mask of a sinister performance. His meeting with old Martha, the town librarian, brought forth a chilling revelation. She handed him an aged tome, its pages yellowed with time, filled with chilling illustrations and cryptic scriptures that mirrored the symbol he had uncovered. "The Keepers of the Void," she whispered, her voice trembling with an ancient fear. "A forgotten cult. Their symbols match the ones you described." As he pored over the chilling lore of the cult, he found himself teetering on the edge of understanding and madness. The rituals, the symbols, the worshipped entity, they all hinted at a terrifying objective: mass indoctrination of the unsuspecting. Their tool, Elysium, and the hypnotic power it held over its patrons. Every stolen trinket was part of a larger, insidious design. They were not stolen for their material value, but their emotional significance, twisted into offerings for the unfathomable cosmic entity that the cult revered. His own haunted schizophrenia, once a burden, was becoming a distorted compass, leading him through this nightmarish reality. At home, Sophia noticed the change in her father. Their conversations, once filled with shared laughter and tender moments, now revolved around his obsession with the mystery. "Father," she pleaded, "you are losing yourself to this." Arthur, his heart heavy, replied, "Sophia, I do this to protect us, to protect Troy." But it was the surreal encounter with Nancy Miller that truly struck him. In a trance-like state, she revealed herself as a member of the cult, her voice an eerie calm in the storm that their world had become. "We are but vessels," she echoed, "for the eternal one who sleeps beneath the veil of reality." Arthur, shaken yet unyielding, realized that his pursuit had brought him closer to the edge of an abyss he could never have fathomed. An ancient horror was slowly waking, pulling the strings behind the facade of normality in Troy. His own mind, with its schizophrenic echoes, had been an unwitting guide into this dark realm. As he sat alone in his study, with the city's unconscious silhouette stretched out beneath the moon's pallid glow, he prepared himself for what lay ahead. His path was now a paradox, a journey towards a horrific revelation that threatened to consume all that he held dear. His pursuit of truth was becoming a descent into the cosmic depths of insanity, where the eternal night awaited his embrace. Break. Under the umbral shroud of night, Arthur found himself standing before Elysium for the final time. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing the haunting rhythm of the cosmic entity's siren song. He was a lone warrior standing at the precipice of an unfathomable abyss, poised to plunge into the eternal darkness. The nightclub was now an unholy altar, its patrons lost souls entranced in a dance of oblivion. Among them, he spotted Nancy, her once vibrant eyes vacant, but a cruel sense of purpose radiating from her. "Arthur," she welcomed, her voice cold, "you've finally come to embrace the truth." His confrontation with Nancy was a symphony of revelation and despair. She recounted the cult's rituals, the eternal entity they served, and the destiny they sought. Each word resonated with the terrifying patterns his schizophrenic mind had been sketching, the terror of his subconscious, now a horrifying reality. "I won't let this happen, Nancy," he protested, his voice trembling, but unfaltering. She smiled, a chilling semblance of her former self. "Arthur," she whispered, "you were never a threat. You're the chosen one. Your mind, your affliction, it's a gift, a connection to the Eternal One." The revelation sent icy tendrils of dread curling around his heart. His schizophrenia, once a detested adversary, was now the cryptic language of a cosmic horror. His mind was a doorway, and he was the vessel chosen to usher in the eternal night. His encounter with the cult's inner circle was a vortex of alien thoughts and visions. He saw the entity, a sprawling mass of darkness that twisted and coiled in the space beyond reality. He felt its pull, a horrifying call that echoed the deepest fears of his psyche. His resolve wavered. His love for Sophia, his hope for Troy, and his struggle for sanity were on one side of the cosmic scales. On the other, the horrifying destiny that the Eternal One offered, a release from the torment of his fractured mind. And then Arthur Devlin, the guardian of truth, the protective father, made his choice. He surrendered to the Eternal One, his body convulsing in the grip of the entity's power. The nightclub pulsed with a terrible energy. The patrons froze, their eyes reflecting the terror of the cosmic horror now unveiled. His last rational thought was of Sophia. He hoped his sacrifice would shield her from the same fate. He hoped his surrender would satiate the entity's hunger. And then, his thoughts were no more. Arthur Devlin was gone, swallowed by the eternal night. As dawn attempted to break, it found an eternal darkness draped over Troy. The city, once a haven of tranquility, was now trapped in a timeless void under the cosmic entity's shadow. The tale of Arthur Devlin concluded not with a heroic triumph, but a tragic sacrifice. In his struggle to protect his world, he had become the herald of an unfathomable cosmic horror, his love's protection morphing into a city's doom. We appreciate you tuning in. If you fancied the content, show your support with a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to keep up with our eerie adventures. Eldritch Tales Factory has plenty more to offer. Until next time.